Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. Today is a solo, and we are talking all about signs they are your boyfriend and not your husband. And if we have time, I'm also going to bake in the other solo, which is Are we having enough sex? So we'll see how this goes timing wise. And if not, that will be its own episode. I also want to say happy anniversary to We Met at Acme. 8 years. That is fucking crazy. 8 years. I was actually going to do an episode of like the best advice shared by our guests in all of the 8 years. But the last solo episode was on the 35 things that I've learned in 35 years. So I feel like they're very similar. So that might be a Substack. Anyway, just putting that out there that I do want to share that because we have had some very insightful guests that have said very insightful things that I have personally baked into my life and my everydays. One of which is what I always talk about, set them up to win. That came from, I think, Sean Galanos, who's amazing. He is Canada based. I think he's like between Canada and LA, and he's going to come back on the pod at some point. But have learned so much, guys, have learned so much. So let's talk about boyfriends and husbands. This is not an episode on no, that's a boyfriend privilege, because that was an entire episode. This episode is how do you discern the difference between someone that you're dating that is simply someone that you're dating versus someone that is your actual partner for life, your person, okay? And it's really hard. It's really hard to know the difference, especially when you're in it, because I know that obviously everyone I dated before my husband was my boyfriend. I know that now. But when I was dating them, it's fully possible that I thought, or at least wanted to think, that this could be my husband. And that could have just been a me thing. You know, I'm very romantic and I don't like my time wasted. So I wouldn't have dated someone if I thought that there was no way in hell I could ever marry them. But now looking back in hindsight, I see why it never worked out with all of them and how it's different when it is your husband. So let's just get right into it. I'm like out of breath because I just ate so much, hence the belly popping out. Okay. A husband puts you first. I know this sounds so duh, but it's actually not that duh. A lot of people have boyfriends that don't put them first. And they make excuses for them and they say, "Oh, but you know this and this is really important to them," or you know, he loves his mom or whatever it is. I don't just mean puts you first before their family. I don't just mean puts you first before their friends. I mean puts you first ahead of. Why is my friend calling me when I'm recording? Okay, we'll bake this in because he's funny. Hi, I'm mid recording. I'm mid recording, so you're on air. Be careful what you say.
Hi. No, no. I wanted you to do me a solid. Um, I want a photo booth and I want you to figure out how to get it as an influencer. So if anybody listening to the pod has connections to a photo booth, please dial in
I'm
because I need
dying.
one and I need you to
I
actually
have an
do
idea,
that.
actually. I have an idea, and Kate can
Thank you.
help
Yeah, I
because she
want
knows
you guys
them.
and since you guys, are like both employers, let's see who can get the better deal and then
Well, you're
you
gonna
guys
love
get a prize.
you're gonna love my idea. I don't want to say their
Love
name
it.
on here in case they don't give it to us for free, so I'll call you after.
Okay, love you.
Okay,
Bye.
love you. Bye. Oh my God. My gay besties are getting married and they're insane. And by the way, there's no way I could get this for free, but my friend is in PR and maybe she could, so we'll see. Anyway, a husband puts you first above people in their life, obviously, but also, okay, above themselves. A husband puts you before themselves. And let me be so clear that I'm not saying this is just stuff a husband should do. A wife should do the same. I do the same with Steven. He does that for me and I do that for him. I'm not just out here hoping that he puts me first and not giving him the same in return, right? So a husband puts you first. If you're, needing something in the middle of the night because you're in pain, whatever it is, your husband runs out to get it for you, or at least orders it on DoorDash. But your boyfriend doesn't. Or like maybe they do every once in a while, but it's not reliable. You know the difference. Another huge difference between if someone is your boyfriend or your husband is in how you resolve arguments, because arguments are going to happen. They're even going to happen when you're married. I hate to break it to you. If you thought that just because someone is your husband or your wife doesn't mean that you have arguments that you might have when you're boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you will still have arguments. Okay. The difference is that a boyfriend makes you think that everything is high stakes, but a husband doesn't, okay? Because you're going to resolve things. It's like that Taylor Swift song that I've definitely referenced this before in the pod. I think it was Mine. I think it's Mine or Ours, but I'm pretty sure it's the song Mine. Like, you are the best thing that's ever been mine. And then there's a line at the end when it's like, I remember that fight at 2:30 a.m. Everything was spinning out of my head or something. And then it's like, I braced myself for the goodbye because that's all I've ever known. But you took me by surprise. You said I'd never leave you alone. Oh my God, I have the chills. She's just so good, guys. I really have the chills. Especially because I just saw Dua Lipa in concert, and while she was so great and so sexy, it just makes you realize how good Taylor is. Like, Taylor does not take one break for 3 hours. But anyway, I digress. A boyfriend makes you think everything is high stakes. And as Taylor so perfectly wrote in her lyrics, a husband will never leave you alone. He's not going to abandon you. He's not going to leave a music festival. We just had a poll question about this because he's overwhelmed and leave you there. No, that's boyfriend behavior. And honestly, ex-boyfriend behavior. Husband behavior is he's like, hey, honey, like, I'm kind of over this. Do you want to go with me? A boyfriend abandons you and shows you their true colors. A husband would never do that. Never leaves you, guys. And also, I sent myself a TikTok that I wanted to play for this episode because I thought it was really interesting. It was from a podcast with 3 men. I honestly don't really know what it's called, but I think it's called The Disruption. Is there a podcast? Okay, listen
I
up.
see from once you move into the husband category is you're more willing to strip away parts of yourself. You're more available to each other. This partnership is now a covenant between everybody. Put your friends in little penguin suits. Pray before God. This partnership has to work out kind of situation now of like, I bet. Let me listen to you. What am I doing wrong? Talk to me. Like, okay, I'm willing. Every problem must be solved. Must be resolved, bro. Yeah. No room for calluses. We're healing this right now. Beforehand, I'm dropping you off after this argument. It's Tuesday. I'm dropping you off, and I'm not seeing you till Friday. We'll forget about it by then. It's not that. Yeah, I feel like that's the one difference. There is like that's probably the dynamic that changes a little bit within a kind of setting. The difference.
So this is called The Disruption Podcast. It doesn't even have a lot of views, but I found it because I thought that it was really interesting. Basically, they're saying that your willingness to go to lengths to fix things when you're a husband is very different from when you're a boyfriend. Because as they say in the clip, you could just drop them off, not see them for a few days. You could go play FIFA, whatever. When someone is your husband, they don't want you unhappy with them for 1 second. Okay? Arguing over money. This can happen with a boyfriend, but not with a husband. And hear me out. I know you're going to be like, but my husband gets mad when I spend money. That's different. That's different. If we are fighting over the bill and splitting the bill at dinner and shit like that, that's a boyfriend. And again, like an ex-boyfriend, honestly. But your husband wants to treat you. Your husband doesn't want to do anything that would make you think less of them. Okay? Here's a big one. Big one. I had boyfriends. So I have a big contingent of family in New York. That's where my family is, right? Some of my family's in Florida, some of them are in New York, whatever. And there, with that, and like with that blessing of having family around comes a lot of family events. And I mean a lot. Like my cousin's art show, it's not just weddings, it's like art shows, it's Jewish holidays, it's, bat mitzvahs, whatever. You name it, you name the kind of event, we've had it. And I had boyfriends in the past who would complain about these events or like, do I definitely have to go to this one or, blah, 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 whatever. Your husband shows up for your family events with a smile on their face and makes it their mission to get everyone in your family to like them. That is the difference. Your husband complains about things also, right? Because they're human, but still does them and does them with a smile on their face. Your boyfriend complains about things and tries to get out of them. Your husband complains about things, but does them anyway, again, with a smile. Okay. So the same, by the way, all of these apply in reverse. Definitely have been in a relationship before where I didn't want to go to my boyfriend's cousin's, whatever, science fair. Okay. Because I didn't like them enough. Right. So like read between the lines. That was my boyfriend, not my husband. Okay, same. I guess this is kind of similar, but a little different. Your husband does not mess up for the big events. So I remember I was in a relationship once and Valentine's Day came around and they hadn't done anything. And like, I'm pretty sure we were 2 years in, maybe a year in. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like you obviously got too comfortable. Meanwhile, my husband is over here never getting too comfortable to forget that Valentine's Day is something that I need flowers on, right? Like birthdays, anniversaries. Again, you're not messing up for big events because you care what the other person thinks of you. And you don't want to let them down because you don't want an argument. Because why would you want to have issues and tension with your husband or your wife? Okay. And this is just cute and kind of cheesy, but really true. You like to do the mundane stuff together, like laying on the couch, watching TikToks, watching The Summer I Turned Pretty or whatever. Steven won't watch it with me, but like Landman or something. Like going to IKEA, decorating your home together, whatever it is, you like doing this stuff because you like being with them. You like being with them. You have just as much fun with your husband as you do your friends. It's not the same kind of fun, maybe, but just as much fun. I have been in relationships in the past where, here's the thing, my friends are fun. They're really fun. I have such a good time with my friends. I'm so lucky. I love my friends and we just laugh. We have the best time. There have been relationships in the past where I would literally go into the bathroom when I was at dinner with my boyfriend to text my friends because it was more fun than the dinner I was at with my boyfriend. Okay. And that said boyfriend didn't want me on my phone at dinner. That part is understandable, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't feel FOMO when you're with your husband. You should feel FOMO when you're with your boyfriend. It's actually really funny. There's this TikTok trend going around that's like me sitting with my husband at my wedding and like looking over and my friends are having so much fun. And it's like really funny. And obviously you laugh at that, but you're like, no, you're going to be having fun because it's your husband. Trust. This is like in huge capital letters on my list. Trust is not ever even thought about with your husband. With your boyfriend, many of the time, lots of the time, you don't trust that man. That man maybe doesn't trust you, okay? Because that's your boyfriend. And if he were your husband, you would trust him without fail. And it's possible that there are some boyfriends that you actually do trust without fail, but then you end up breaking up with them because they're boring or whatever it is, not the right person for you. So I'm not saying just because you trust someone, you should marry them. But what I am saying is you will trust your husband without a doubt. So if you're in a relationship right now and you're like, I wouldn't mind going through their phone just to see what I could find, that's not your husband, unfortunately. More willing, okay, this one is kind of like the TikTok I just showed you, but they're more willing to solve problems like immediately. Your boyfriend needs space. Your husband does not. Let that sink in, right? Because why do you need space if you're my husband? If you're my husband, we're living together, we have kids. You're not getting space, right? If you're my boyfriend, you think you can have space because we're eventually going to break up and you'll have lots of space. They will do anything for you and you will do anything for them. That's your husband. That's your wife. Anything for each other, right? I always do things, go out of my way to make Steven's life easier. When I have a dinner with my girlfriends and he's got to come home from work at a certain time and, hang out with Zachary, or just be there while he sleeps so that I could go to this dinner, I will do things to make his night seamless for him. I will make sure all of Zachary's stuff is washed, right? I will even get him dinner if I can. I am doing things, going out of my way. I'm late to my dinner so that I can make sure he has a good night because he's helping me out. I'm helping him out. You just do that stuff for each other. And then there's some quotes from people who talked about the difference for them between boyfriends and husbands. This person said, when they're genuinely a partner for life, my boyfriend actively works to make my life better. I actively work to make his better. Examples: he brings me lunch without asking. He manages our household activity. He puts my headphones on the charger. He buys me socks when he notices I'm low. I cook him his favorite meals and learn recipes from his country. And by the way, that's another thing. I get him new shampoo, all that stuff, when he's low on stuff, whatever. I never hold it against him. I'm never well, who got your paper towels? Never forget the Tom and Ariana thing and Vanderpump Rules. No, you just do the things, right? That's your husband. That's your wife. I organize fun activities with our friends. We both work on our finances and health and friendship and family. We make plans for the next 5 years, including success in both our careers. We have obligations that we work towards as well. With previous boyfriends, it was a lot more basic and boring, more just hanging out a lot. But this relationship is about building a full and complete, secure and satisfying life together, where both of us will be fulfilled in all aspects. I love that. You're pushing each other to grow when this is your husband or wife. This person said, for me, after I got engaged and married, I felt more secure in the relationship. When I was dating, there was always the thought in the back of my mind that he or I could leave if we decided things got too difficult. Now, when things get difficult, my perspective is that we're a team and we need to work through it together. Otherwise, we won't be happy. There's no easy way out anymore. That can be scary, but it can also be reassuring knowing that we're both willing to work on ourselves so we can be better for each other. So you get the gist, guys. He's either your husband because of the things that we just said, or he's your boyfriend. And if he's your boyfriend, then you just need to recognize that and enjoy it for what it is. But you know the difference. You know the difference deep down. And also, if you start to recognize the difference between your husband and your boyfriend, then it's actually easier to let that boyfriend go. I really do believe that. Okay, let me take a breath. And I actually think we do have time for the second part of the episode. can't believe we were able to combine this. And that part of the episode is, are we having enough sex? Here's the thing, and I always say this about sex. First of all, no one wants to talk about this. Second of all, if you're my in-laws or my parents, you need to turn this episode off right now. Please. Thank you. I'll give you a second to turn it off. Okay, fabulous. No one wants to talk about how much sex they're having if they're like 4 or 5 years into being married and have kids. I don't know why. No one is judging you. In fact, I actually feel that people are more judged if they have sex like 4 or 5 times a week. Like if a friend tells me that she has sex 4 or 5 times a week and she's married with kids, I'm like, are you a hostage? Like, are you okay? Is this consensual? Like, I need to know. Whereas if a friend is like, oh yeah, we have sex like 1 or 2 times a week, I'm like, cool. Yeah, sounds about right. Once a month, not even flinching. At least you're doing it, you know? But if a friend is like, we're having sex every day, I'm like, blink twice if you need to be rescued from your sex chamber, because what is going on? And it's so funny because I get these questions. Sometimes I get these questions on DM on Instagram that are like, you know, she only wants to have sex once a day, like red flag deal breaker. And I'm like, what? Only once a day? Like, dude, are you okay? And usually it's a 24-year-old or whatever. I think, and I can only speak for my people. So I'm 35. I'm married 4 years. I have 1 kid and 1 kid on the way. So like heavily pregnant at this point in my life. We are probably having sex once a week. We're at least having sex once a week, and twice a week if it's a good week. If there's like extra time, if we're relaxed. And again, I can only speak for myself, even though I'm hoping to get Steven on the podcast in the next month or 2. And he actually said he would. So if you see him on the street, I would like for you to accost him and be like, when are you going on the podcast? Lindsay said you agreed. Anyway, and I'm happy with it. I'm never like, well, occasionally I'm like, should we have sex like soon? But I'm never like, we're not having enough sex, right? Because enough sex that you're having with your partner is the amount that you're both content with. And this might sound crazy, but that could be once a month for some people. For some people, it could be once every 2 months, okay? Like that could be enough sex for some people. Everyone is different. Similarly, having sex once a month could be not nearly enough sex. Sorry. Having sex once a week could be not nearly enough sex for some people too. And they could feel really, not good about that, right? But as far as I know, and like based on candid conversations with my friends, once a week is good at the stage, again, where I'm at, where friends of mine are at, we're pregnant, already have a baby, that vibe. Once a week is good. And by the way, it's a good once a week. It's not like a fast, like, let's just get this done, like a baby's napping once a week. It's like, it's on. Like, we're going to make, like, this is going to be good. This is going to be fun. Like, this is going to be sex that when we're done, we're like, we should definitely do this more. But then we don't, because like we're busy and we've got other things going on. But it's never the kind of thing where one of us is like, damn, I wish I was more satisfied by my partner, right? And if ever one of us thought that, it's all about open communication, right? Or maybe there's like a night where one person is like hornier than the other. It's like, okay, well then you like either you up the sex that week or like that person does their thing, right? No hard feelings. Like not their thing as in like goes to have sex with someone else, but like, you know what I'm talking about? Like they can go masturbate, whatever. But it's all about being on the same page about it. So again, I can only talk to sex that married couples who have kids are having. But in terms of like if I were and when I was with Steven pre kids or even pre marriage, like we were having more sex. It was probably like 2 to 3 times a week, but there were weeks where it was only once, you know? And I think the question and the answer to are we having enough sex is as simple as are we happy with the amount of sex that we're having? I think that millennials are having more sex than Gen Z as far as I know, right? My Gen Z cousins are not out there having sex every weekend. They have sex like maybe once every 6 months, I feel like. And so I think that we are having a lot of sex in comparison. At the same time, like it's not Sex in the City right now, right? I imagine that single people who have a fuck buddy or are in a new budding relationship are having much more sex than my married friends and I. When I first, started dating Steven, 2 times in a day was a regular thing for us, right? Now we think about that and we laugh hysterically like, what? Never, right? But it's all about the stage in your relationship, what's going on in your lives. But again, like the answer to are we having enough sex is like, are we satisfied with our sex life? And that's what it comes down to, honestly. And I think that you need to ask yourself those questions before you're judging the situation. Like there's a quote, and I always think about this, especially when it comes to sex. If you're satisfied with the sex in your relationship, it's 10% of your relationship. But if you're not satisfied with it, it's 90% of your relationship. So that's really important, right? And so like I've been in relationships in the past where I not only wasn't satisfied with the sex, I didn't feel like the partner at the time was willing to like go to the lengths that it took for me to feel satisfaction. But also, I didn't feel like wanted enough by that partner. And I was always left thinking like, why am I with this guy who like doesn't even want to have sex with me when I could go find someone who wants to have sex with me in a second, you know? And like you don't want your partner feeling that way. Even though Steven and I are having sex once, sometimes twice a week right now, I never don't feel wanted by him. Like it's always like, it's like those TikToks, like when I'm like take my clothes off, like he still like looks at me, whatever it is, I'm always feeling good and sexy around him. But if you're in a relationship where your partner makes you feel unsexy and like not wanted, that's an issue in itself. And I remember like I'd been in a situation like that where something about this person was like they stopped wanting to have sex once they like got in a comfortable relationship with someone. And like that to me is a signal that that's not the person for you. That's not your husband, right? And so I think again, like if you are happy with the amount of sex that you're having in your relationship and your partner is happy and you make sure you have those conversations and connect on that, then you're having enough sex. Do I think we could all be having more sex? Yeah, sure, right? If we could, I think we would, but I think that I'm personally happy with it. I remember I went on my friend Tinks's podcast like years ago and I was talking about having sex with Steven. I think I said we had it like 3 times a week. And it's so funny because now I'm up here being like once is good. And I do think that like it changes, it ebbs and flows. I can imagine that maybe when our kids are in different stages, it'll be different as well. But, again, like yourself and what makes you happy. And I feel like I'm just getting repetitive at this point, but like if you're both happy with the amount, then you're good. And the reason I'm being so transparent right now on this pod is the reason I'm always being transparent on this pod, which is that if you think that you aren't having enough sex, you're probably wrong, because the only amount of sex that you need to be having is the one that you and your partner are happy with. I have friends who never have sex with their husband, okay? And I'm not saying that you should be that person. I'm just saying, like, there are people I know who literally have sex with their husband like twice a year, and just so happens that like both of those times they get pregnant or whatever it is, right? And I think that it's possible that one of those people is happy with it, maybe the other is not, or maybe both are fine with that. And that's what's the most important thing, is that you're on the same page as your partner. And if you're not, ask yourself why. Why don't I want to have sex with my partner, right? Explore that. And, you know, at the end of the day, as long as your partner makes you feel sexy and you make them feel sexy and good about themselves, that's all you can ask for, really. So I hope that was helpful. I guess that's not as long of a part 2 as I expected, because the answer to me is so transparent. And I hope that my parents and my in-laws weren't listening to that part. And thank you for listening to this solo, and happy birthday to We Met at Acme. Okay. That's it. All right, Wolf, will you just do a photo for me, please? Thank you.